Hello, this is Atomic and welcome to my channel. Today, we'll be talking about Kamisato Ayato, a highly anticipated character in Genshin Impact. We'll be taking a deep dive into him with all the information we have right now and try to answer the age-old question of should I pull or should I save on his banner. Ayato is a Hydro 5-star character who has some unique mechanics. Let's take a look at his skills and passives first. His elemental skill, which has a 6-second duration and a 12-second cooldown, puts him in the Takimeguri Kanka state, where his normal attacks become quick hydro slashes with unique modifiers. While in this state, Ayato cannot use charged or plunging attacks. This skill also does not snapshot any stats, and its hydro application has the standard 3-second internal cooldown between applications, unlike some other units such as Xiangling, who applies her element on every hit. Ayato will also gain a Namisen stack every time he normal attacks in this state, which will increase his normal attack damage by a percentage of his HP. And this increase works similarly to how Shenhe or Yunjin works. His first Ascension passive makes it so that Ayato will always start with 2 Namisen stacks, and that when the water illusion explodes from a skill, Ayato will gain the maximum amount of stacks possible. Although the second part of the passive is completely useless, since deploying new elemental skill resets his stacks by putting him in a new Takimeguri Kanka state, and brings it back down to 2 stacks anyways? MiHoYo, did you mess up again? Ayato's burst is much more straightforward. It does hydro damage to enemies inside every 3 seconds, and also has a standard internal cooldown. It also buffs the normal attack percentage of any party members standing inside of it, including Ayato himself. This burst lasts for 18 seconds and has a 20-second cooldown, combined with his Ascension passive too, which gives Ayato 2 energy per second while he's below 40 energy and not on field, making his burst very easy to cast back to back. Now, let's take a look at his Constellations. His Constellation 1 improves his skill's damage by 40% additive against enemies with less than 50% HP, effectively a 10 to 15% damage increase. Constellation 2 increases the maximum stacks of Namisen Ayato can have to 5, and increases his HP by 50% when Ayato possesses at least 3 stacks. Constellation 3 gives him 3 levels on his skill. His Constellation 4 makes it so that after casting his burst, all nearby characters, including Ayato himself, will gain 15% normal attack speed. Constellation 5 gives him 3 burst levels, and finally, Constellation 6 gives him something similar to Ayaka's C6. 2 extra attacks, each dealing damage equals to 300% of Ayato's attack when his first skill slash. One of Ayato's clear strengths is that his large area burst constantly applies hydro to the enemies inside. From the snippets of clips we have, we can see that Ayato's burst is very similar to that of Ganyu's. Let's go back to this clip and focus on this hilly troll. You can clearly see that after the first hydro sword drops onto him, it takes almost 3 seconds for it to hit the same hilly troll again. Even though this means Ayato's hydro application is not going to be fast enough in a single target scenario for freeze and reverse vaporize teams, demonstrated here in this clip, Ayato really shines in multiple target scenarios where there are 2 or more enemies, and is flexible with all animal characters that have some form of crowd control. Sorry Sayu, maybe one day. Here, you can see Ayato decimate some mobs in this clip when multiple enemies are grouped together. This confirms that Xingqiu is still the best at applying hydro in single target scenarios, but Ayato is clearly better in multi-target scenarios. As a side note, this is most likely why Venti is having a rerun together with Ayato. His crowd control ability combined with Ayato's burst is quite a deadly combination indeed. You might be wondering at this point, Atomic, why have you talked so much about Ayato's burst, but not about his skill? As much as his banner weapon and his character passives buffs his skill's damage, it's still not good enough to use. Why? He requires too much time on field. Let's shift gears and take a look at another character that has this problem, Yae Miko. People quickly realized that Yae required a lot of on-field time just to get baseline effectiveness, compared to alternatives such as Fischl or Raiden. Similarly to Yae, Ayato's skill suffers from the same problem. he takes up as much time on field as a main DPS like Hu Tao, whilst dealing a lot less damage due to having no reliable amplifying reaction, and his Nami's Stacking's passive ramp-up time. To prove this mathematically, I created a calculator for Ayato in order to optimize for his skills damage. Here are the stats and rotations I used for my damage simulation for Hypercarry Ayato. And here are the results. But wait, I actually made a mistake when doing these calculations. I thought Ayato's burst would hit a single enemy every 1 second, which then made me put 18 instances of his burst in for his total damage calculation. However, I quickly realized that 3-second timing and removed half of the damage instances. We immediately lost 75k damage, about a sixth of his total damage. Then I removed his burst altogether, which resulted in the loss of 150k damage, about a third of his total damage. As you can see here, even with a complete focus on his skill, by his character design and in this calculation, his burst still ended up being very important, dealing about a third of Ayato's total damage. This clearly shows that Ayato's damage from a skill is not at the level of a main DPS. We also have to remember that there are simply just better characters like Raiden, Hu Tao, or even Yae, who does similar damage whilst requiring approximately the same amount of on-field time. Even though Ayato's C1 and C2 does buff his skill quite a bit, the above characters all have much better constellations than Ayato that scales better, which buffs their respective damage even more, all the reason to not use this elemental skill extensively. Overall, Ayato is definitely an interesting character, being able to offer great levels of DPS, great off-field Hydra application, and is a beast when it comes to multi-target scenarios. Overall, however, he is bogged down completely by MiHoYo's split personality design apparently on every single 5-star character after Raiden. He is given a shiny skill that wouldn't and shouldn't see much use, but also a very versatile burst like Ganyu's that has large AoE, opening us to new team compositions and playstyles. However, to answer the question of should I pull or should I save is too early now. Let's just see how it all goes from here. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, it means a lot to me. Also, comment what videos you guys would like to see next. This is Atomic, and I'll see you the next time.